Hello everyone, and welcome back to Can He Be Goku Though, the series where we research characters from across the multiverse to determine if they can beat the fighting genius known as Goku. In the last episode, we determined that he might lose to Timmy Turner and his fairy godparents if he hesitated for long enough for Timmy to make a wish. Prior to that, we concluded that he would defeat SpongeBob with little to no difficulty. So this time around, we'll be covering two of anime's most famous characters, Light Yagami, the mass murderer known as Kira by the public, and the illustrious detective referred to only as L. It's obvious to most people who know them that they couldn't beat Goku in a head-on fight, and that's why we're going to change things up for this episode. In order for me to explain the rules behind this new matchup, I have to first explain the backstory of both characters when pitting against Goku. Hold on to your death notes, because there are definite spoilers ahead. Light Yagami is the son of Soichiro and Sachiko Yagami, and the older brother to Sayu. Light's father works in the police force and rose through the ranks to become chief of police. While almost nothing is known about Light's early life, what's important about his life happens after he starts high school. Gifted with a knack for academics and above average intelligence, Light excels in all of his classes, acing tests without any visible frustration or excess studying. It can be assumed that because of this, and the pedestal his parents and sisters seem to place him on, Light develops a sense of superiority toward the people around him and develops a twisted moral compass. Disillusioned with the world and all of the crime that takes place day in and day out, Light starts to refer to the world as rotten, and one day, like a gift from the heavens, a magical notebook falls from the sky as Light is looking out of his classroom window. He picks it up and reads the rules to the Death Note. After reading the passage that describes being able to kill people by writing down their names, he goes home to test it out. After finding out that the Death Note can in fact kill people, he decides to test it out once more, to be sure. After stumbling upon a woman about to be assaulted, Light writes down the name of the leader of the group of guys and specifies a condition for his death. He gets run over by a truck while chasing after the girl on his motorcycle, just as Light had written. Light is initially sickened by the fact he just killed two men, but he quickly regains his composure and begins his descent into insanity. He starts writing down the names of criminals both inside of prison and out. This quickly attracts the attention of law enforcement agencies worldwide, ranging from America to Japan, where Light lives. Along with police from across the world, the famous detective known as L makes his presence known to the cops, as well as Light. Shortly after appearing, he openly taunts Light on a broadcast specifically in the Kanto region of Japan, and uses a decoy to get Light to reveal that he can kill others without being present. This was the start of the cat-and-mouse game between Light and L. After being so careless, Light begins to take more precautions when killing his victims, such as varying the time his victims die so L won't figure out that he's a student. This fails, and due to Light changing the timing right as L is closing in on it, L figures out that Light also has access to police information, considering the police had noted that the killings took place after school hours. With this information, L narrowed down Kira to a few people, one of whom was Light. He started having Light tailed by an FBI agent, Ray Pinber, and had surveillance cameras planted in his room. After Ryuk, the Shinigami owner of the Death Note, who's unable to be seen by anyone except the human owner of the Death Note, alerts Light that he's being followed, Light enacts a plan. Light proceeds to orchestrate an experiment in order to kill two birds with one stone. After calling a girl from his school and asking her out on a date, the bus that the pair are taking to go on their date is boarded by a hijacker. This is all according to Light's plan, of course, as the Death Note has the ability to control a target's actions before their death, but only to the extent of something physically possible. The target cannot cross the Pacific in 2 hours by swimming if ordered to, for example. The target on the bus is named Kiichiro Osareda, and Ray Pinber is also on board this bus due to his tailing Light. This is where Light's genius begins to shine through. Because Pinber is following him, but Light is unaware of his name, he orchestrates the hijacking in order to test the Death Note's limitations, and figure out the identity of the man shadowing him. After Kiichiro brandishes his gun, Pinber quietly lets Light know that he is an FBI agent and shows him his badge, giving Light his name. Light then drops a piece of paper which Kiichiro picks up. Remember how I said earlier that Ryu can only be seen by the human owner of the Death Note? Well, touching a piece of the Death Note means you're considered its owner. So when Kiichiro picks up a seemingly innocuous piece of paper that Light dropped, which is in reality a piece of the Death Note, he gains the ability to see Ryuk. And as any human would, Kiichiro starts going insane and begins shooting at Ryuk, only for it to have no effect. He then panics and runs out of the bus, only to be struck down and killed by a car, as organized by Light. Later, Light manipulates Ray into writing down the names of the members of the FBI task force organized to take down Kira. But of course, with Light being the mastermind he is, the paper that Ray is writing down the names on is of course a piece of the Death Note, effectively killing every person whose name is written on the paper. Light then kills Ray, but not before grinning evilly towards the man whose life he just ended. Further in the series, L infiltrates Light's school, while masquerading under the name Hideki Ryuga, who is coincidentally a famous pop star. The pressure L exerts on Light after meeting him in person almost causes Light to crack, but due to his supernatural assistant Ryuk, Light is able to even the odds and formulates a plan to end all plans. Light organizes for his memory to be lost by relinquishing ownership of the Death Note, knowing that with his knowledge of the murders he committed as Kira gone, he would want to help L and the task force bring down Kira. Of course, as Light can apparently see 10 steps into the future, he knows that once his good self reacquires the Death Note, his memories will come back, allowing for some of the heat on him to die down, while being able to continue his killing spree after the Death Note is back in his possession. This is a very brief summary, and I'm not doing the series justice, so if you want to have a better understanding of the characters or just looking for an anime to enjoy, please watch Death Note. I'm not going to explain the only scenario I see Light and L winning against Goku. But before that, there are 3 problems that must be solved for this battle to take place. First, Goku can sense evil intentions, thus making it difficult for Light or L to get close to him without Goku knowing something is wrong with the situation. Second, the Death Note only works on humans. And third, Goku technically doesn't have a first and last name, nor is Goku his real name. To get around all of these problems, I have 3 neat solutions. This what if takes place in the time frame where Light loses his memory, thus making it difficult for Goku to sense any evil rating off of Light or L, due to L being almost completely emotionless throughout the entire series, thus solving the first problem. The Death Note does not appear to be clear on what it classifies as a human, meaning they could just be referring to those with human body structures such as Goku. Lastly, for the sake of this matchup, the win condition for Light and L is as follows. The name Son Goku must be written down due to Kakarot being one word, and it is unlikely that the duo would figure out that Goku's real name is Kakarot. With all the problems taken care of, let's begin. In the normal timeline, Gohan, Goku's son, toys around with Cell too much, leading to Goku's death. In this timeline, Gohan finishes Cell off quickly at Goku's request, leaving Goku alive. Just like in the main timeline, the event known as the Cell Games, where fighters lined up to fight the android known as Cell, was televised for all to see. Only this time, Light, Yagami, and L are watching, and they do not believe what they are seeing. Mysterious fighters with yellow hair who can fly and shoot energy blasts are dismissed as nothing more than actors using heavy visual effects. While Light and L determine that due to their experiences with Kira, this threat is likely very real and possibly related to the ability Kira possesses to remotely kill. They convince the task force of the importance of investigating the region where the footage was broadcasted in order to find out the identity of the Golden Warriors. The members of the Kira task force are as follows: Soichiro Yagami, Shuichi Aizawa, Gonzo Mogi, Tata Matsuda, and Hideki Ide. Upon arriving in West City, the task force books a hotel to be their temporary headquarters for this spin-off investigation. L quickly determines that the fighters are looking for a martial artist, due to his familiarity with capoeira, a South American fighting style. The investigation seems to be a failure, with members of the task force questioning numerous people about the gold-haired fighters and getting no information until they check out the Capsule Corporation establishment. There, they find Bulma's mother, Mrs. Briefs, who gives them important information about their case. The golden-haired fighters have names, and one of them is named Goku. At this point, Light decides to ask around the city and find out if anyone had heard of a man named Goku before. He quickly determines that Goku is a martial artist, just as L predicted, and is told that Goku used to fight at the Budokai Tenkaichi martial arts tournament. Armed with this knowledge, Light reports back to the task force, and the group sets their course for Papaya Island, where the tournament is held. Before they can leave though, the group is stopped by an unknown man in an orange gi, and he asks if they've been looking for him. Everyone is immediately overwhelmed by the presence of the man standing before them, as they recognize him to be one of the people with gold hair fighting in the Cell Games. As they converse, this man introduces himself as Son Goku, and Bulma is notified that people were asking around about Goku and informed him. Due to Light losing his memory of being Kira and L being generally emotionless, Goku detects no problem with the group as they talk. When asked about his power, Goku states that it stems from his ki, allowing him to do things humans would ordinarily find impossible, such as fly. The conversation finishes and Goku flies off, leaving the Kira task force to fly back to HQ as they've gathered all the information they need. This is where Light and L are at odds, as Light believes that Goku has tremendous power and should not be trusted with it, stating that he could be worse than Kira if given the opportunity, whereas L takes a more neutral approach, believing that if Goku manages to get out of hand, that Kira will eliminate him, just like he does every criminal. Ultimately, the conversation is put to rest, and the story of Death Note plays out like normal, up until one major point. When Light touches the Death Note in the helicopter with L and regains his memories, his plans differ from the main timeline. Instead of just killing the man who had possession of the Death Note, Kyosuke Higuchi, Light also takes this opportunity to write down one more name, Son Goku. From there, things go just about the same as they would in the normal timeline, with the exception of Goku mysteriously dropping dead in his home, leaving his wife and son to mourn him. After using the Shinigami room to eliminate L, Light takes over as L, and under the guise of trying to learn more about Kira, Light travels to West City once more without being accompanied by the task force. His reason for being there is to learn how to harness his ki, and he will try to manipulate Goku's friends and family to have them teach him, by claiming that learning how to harness his ki will help him find Kira easier, the one responsible for Goku's death. It's difficult to be sure whether Goku's loved ones would fall for the ruse, but one thing is for certain. This timeline is left all the darker for having lost Goku, and it's all because of Light. Thank you all for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, I would appreciate it if you left a comment. This series is going to get even more fantastical, and I'm looking forward to creating more matchups. So I should probably get started on the next one then, huh? See you next time.